Good evening, everyone. Yang Yan Zhao back again tonight. Very special guest. We will be talking about comics. But first, why don't you go check out my new Kickstarter campaign for Empire of the Undying Sun? You can find out more information about it directly on empireoftheundyingsun.com. It is a Dungeons and Dragons campaign guide for both 5th and 4th edition horror themed. Sorry, not 5th and 4th, 5th and 1st edition. Definitely not 4th. It's horror themed. You've got 450 pages. And in addition, we have 13 adventure modules all set in the world that you can use to supplement your game or just add it into whatever campaign you're currently running. The campaign launches in October, so why don't you go check it out? And for anyone new to the channel, if you could like this video and subscribe, would appreciate that a lot. It helps with the channel and it helps to let me know if you're into what we're doing here. But tonight, we have a special guest. He is a veteran in the trenches of indie comics. He is a man who has many books under his belt and many talent. He is an ace when it comes to putting the books out. Tonight, we have Buzz Acevedo. How are you doing?
What's going on, brother? Thanks for having me on.
So this is the first time we've had a chance to talk. And so I'm just kind of curious, why comics? You know, you could be doing anything with your spare time, but you're like, no, I must write comics. How did you come to that?
I mean, to me, as growing up, I've always had two loves. One was professional wrestling. The other was comic books. They're the things that kind of I spent all of my free time either watching or reading since I was, I started watching wrestling probably when I was like 5, 6, somewhere around there. Was hooked ever since. And discovered comic books a couple years after that when I came to the States from Puerto Rico, and I fell in love with them, man. Like 90s comics, X-Men, Spider-Man, initially Marvel, and then eventually DC and Image and everything else. But yeah, man, it's just it's always a dream, I dreamt of working for Marvel. I wanted to be part of their bullpen. I wanted to be an artist and all that. Used to draw my own crude comics back in the day. So yeah, it's just always something I've been passionate about. And thanks to this kind of new indie space where we're, thanks to like places like Twitter and YouTube and all that, it's created this space where people can kind of, do some DIY themselves. There's no entry barrier. For us anymore, so it's been a great thing.
Yeah, for sure. So you have me a little curious with your love of wrestling as well as comics. Have you been able to take any of the lessons from wrestling and used it in your comic writing?
I mean, as far as like writing fight scenes and stuff, it does. For definitely, I see the fights kind of play out in my mind. More kind of like as like a wrestling match as sometimes, sometimes, the good guy has to get his ass kicked a little bit before he makes his comeback, stuff like that, little touches. But overall, they're kind of very different mediums. But yeah, there's definitely little influences from one to the other.
Yeah, I always thought that wrestling was great, especially for like long form storytelling, because if you watch, especially if you watch wrestling back in the day, I haven't really watched it that much in a while, but it would be like The Rock hates Triple H going on months and months with different fights and involving other wrestlers, and then you've got like the heel turn and the face turn. Seems.
Then you have like the big SummerSlam cap off.
Yeah.
It's a lot of. It's definitely a fun thing to follow, especially during like I think late '80s to like late '90s was really like the sweet spot. Those 10 years are like some really great stuff.
Yeah. To me, that always seemed to like dovetail perfectly with comics because, like, that's what you want, right? It's
Hmm.
like you got the little fights here and there, and you're building up to some big, massive fight. And there's
Yeah.
always some good guy who turns evil, some evil guy who sees the error of his ways.
Yeah,
There.
you gotta keep it fresh. It can't just be the Rock can't always be the bad guy. He has to be the good guy, and then when he gets stale as the good guy, then he turns bad for a little bit. So it's kind of the same. It's kind of like that's I'm a big X-Men fan. So Magneto, Magneto's the bad guy. Then he's like the good guy, but then he has to go bad again. Then he loses his memory, and then he takes on another alter ego. So it's definitely very very wrestling inspired X-Men during the 90s. Definitely had that feel.
Yeah, it always made me wonder, like, how much did the writers of comics, like, how much were they influenced by wrestling, and
Mm,
how much were the people, doing the storylines at WWE, were they influenced by X-Men
yeah.
comic books? I mean, because those costumes the wrestlers wear, I mean, they're not
Oh,
that
yeah.
far off from superhero
No,
costumes.
not at all. Not these days. Especially now, you're seeing a lot like cosplay entrances and stuff. People coming out as like Wolverine, Black Panther, and stuff. So it's even more influenced now as far as the looks go.
For sure. I even think like women's gym clothes, just like normal gym clothes for women, they look a lot like old superhero costumes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that zero barriers compared to where everything used to be fairly tightly controlled by the big two and a few other smaller publishers. How was your entry into the indie space? Was it like a big learning curve, or was it like easier than you thought?
Oh no, it's definitely a big learning curve. It's also like a self-imposed, like
Mhm.
I made sure that I worked on the script for months with the help of different people, just pitching ideas, worked with an editor to kind of put it in like, I never written like an actual comic book script. So kind of helped me kind of lay that out, kind of see how the panels go into descriptions and all that. So yeah, definitely took my time. I studied for a lot of other guys who were doing books at the time. My artist Ibai Canales definitely was a big help. He was already doing books at that time, so he was a great kind of person to kind of help guide me through my first book. So yeah, it was also like altogether from like it was like a year and a half before I launched like Ace One, which was my first book.
Mhm.
But that was all like self-imposed, 'cause I wanted to make sure that I did all of the art and everything. The letters were done by the time of the launch. So
Oh,
just
nice.
wanted to make sure like everything was kind of, queued up for the book to succeed. So mm.
So how was it working with your artist for the first time? A lot of people, especially when you get people doing crowdfunders, when they come from the writing side, it's like it's their project. In their minds, they want it a certain way, and but comics are a very collaborative medium, so you got to give the artist like a little bit of free space there. Was it easy for you to work with someone else? To like give up a little bit of like, I hate to say control, but give up a little bit of that storytelling and let them have their influence on it.
I don't know. I've always been a collaborator in different things. Like I've always like being part of a group, coming up with ideas. Canales was super easy to work with. Like I said, he's a professional first off.
Mhm.
So like so it's a bit of an understanding. Like like make it look cool. That's always the number one rule of anything. Like, can you make this? If you can make this better, I don't care what you do. Make this cool, and then if I have to rewrite it, I can rewrite it. But make this cool, and then sometimes if it kind of goes a little too left, you got to be like, no, you got to pull that back. And like I said, it's been super like simple. I mean, Canales were actually friendly before we started working together. So we had our respect already by the time we started working together, and it's been, we've done 3 Ace books, and it's always been nothing but, the utmost professional and a guy who really knows what he's doing. He's a really good storyteller. He's super creative. He knows kind of when to add his own little flair to stuff. And he also knows, when I got to pull him back. Hey, it's nothing personal. You just gotta pull it back a bit. So yeah, we vibed very well together. So.
And so now on Kickstarter, you've got up Drawing Aces, which is an anthology book.
Mm-hmm.
So how was it going from, a normal book to now you also have to deal with other writers and other artists? Like, was it difficult to sort of switch gears between like sort of everything was yours versus now like other people have differing views and whatnot?
No, this is an anthology, but it's my character, so I'm writing all the stories. The only one that has like a story credit would be Joe. Joe is the co-creator of Blue Blaze, so we both worked on the script and the outline and all that. But the other 4 stories are all written by me.
I see. So why did you choose an anthology as opposed to just another, I hate to say normal book, but like a book with one storyline, I guess you'd say?
Yeah, like I said, I've been working on a lot of projects over the last couple of years. It's not just Ace. We also have Bloodbone with the White Leopard. And then, like I said, these new kind of ideas that me and Joe working on called Blue Blaze, and then this other character, Xavier. Like, it just kind of, there's a lot of stuff kind of in my Dropbox that I wanted to like start sharing. And, I was inspired a lot by Phil Diaz when he did the Lost Pages anthology.
Yeah.
Is really Lost Pages 1 to me is the best indie book I've read since I've gotten in this space, probably like 2016-ish, when I first started kind of getting into space. I think the original Lost Pages plus the short story anthology, I consider both to like as one volume. I think it's the best story I've read on the indie scene, and I want to do my own version of that. Because I said, I do have this Ace story that's kind of been sitting in my Dropbox and I haven't found an avenue to put it somewhere. Xavier, like, it was the first kind of, 5 pages were done. They've been kind of collecting dust a bit for a couple years now, So these things kind of like all made sense. I have all these short stories that I can put into one volume. They're all my characters. They all take place under this kind of one big Drawing Aces universe. And it'd be a cool thing to kind of be able to showcase all these stories, all these different artists. They've done a great job for me. And also kind of leads to the future. Like I said, I'm able to spin off Xavier into its own series after this, same thing with Blue Blaze. So it's kind of something, basically everything I've done for the past 5 years as a creator, and kind of all in one kind of volume here.
Yeah, it's very cool. Just looking through the Kickstarter earlier today, the art is pretty impressive. I really liked. I kind of wish there would be more black and white books in comics. Like, it just has a different feel to me. But like the art really overall, it uses that black and white well. Like, sometimes I'll see books that are black and white, but like it's so over rendered, it's hard to tell what's going on. Whereas here, I like that your artists make smart choices, like in the top panel, okay, there's just the sofa for the background, and the next one no background, and then third one limited, and then you get like more detail with the school lockers and whatnot.
Yeah.
But does a really great job of the pacing and actually making it so I can understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure working with all these guys. And the thing about the format is the reason it's black and white is because kind of everything was meant to be in black and white. There's nothing here that was kind of like, oh, I'll get it colored later. Like, when I talk to my artist, to be like, hey, I want to put this out in black and white. Want to kind of have this kind of different feel to it. So, You can go crazy with the zip it tone, with the shadows, with all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I think it all flows well. I had I had a little mini preview ash can of a lot of these stories printed, just to kind of see how they would flow together, and I was really happy with it. So can't wait for the full comic to get done up.
Yeah. So do you think this is something we'll see more of? Like we'll see the anthology part 2 as you sort of build up more of these short stories in your portfolio?
Oh yeah, I already got scripts. I already got artists working on stuff. Like it's already, the process already begun. I already got the cover idea for second issue of the anthology. So yeah, this is fun, man. I really like the short story format. I've written some for the Ace. I've done a couple kind of origin stories that have really been some of my favorite things that I've written. So yeah, I just think it's fun. It's something different. Brings together a little something for everybody. Like I said, if you've never read any of my books, you can kind of get this and get an idea. Maybe you've been curious about Ace. You can check out little Ace short story here, see if you like it. So I think it's a pretty easy entry, for anybody who kind of wants to get caught up. And you don't really need any backstory. All the stories kind of are very kind of simple, and they're their own little thing. There's no real backstory necessary. You can kind of figure out where everything is, and hopefully it leaves you kind of wanting more.
Yeah, definitely. So what if people, if they read this and they say, oh yeah, I want to check out those other issues. Is that available here, or how can somebody find your other books?
The easiest way is just to message me on Twitter. If you're interested. I do have some copies of each book laying in boxes in my apartment. So, so we can always get some out to you. But yeah, like I said, I'm launching a couple of these campaigns. Like up next, I'll be doing Bloodbone, probably maybe spring or summer next year. So you can get caught up with Bloodbone once I put out the number 1, and then after that's probably going to be a second chance for Raid of the White Leopard. So you can get caught up on that. So, with these campaigns launched, the last Ace, you got to catch up issues 1 and 2, new printing. So I always try to make these available, but they are kind of limited and they're kind of exclusive, like this How Comics cover. It's like you're only going to get this through Kickstarter. So
nice.
You'll want it.
So, people have been all over the place in the indie comic scene with like, this platform is better than that platform. Do you have any platforms that you prefer to try to crowdfund on, or just whatever's the flavor of the month?
I mean, I've enjoyed my time on both Indiegogo and Fund My Comic, which is the ones that I previously used. I think as far as a creator, the layout for Fund My Comic is by far the best. You're able to create a campaign within a couple of hours, get all the tiers and everything set up. It's super simple. Indiegogo makes it a lot more difficult. But like I said, once you get the campaign going, like everything's pretty smooth afterwards. And Kickstarter's been fine so far. Like no issues. Like the setup is a little easier than Indiegogo, which is good. And their layouts and everything, the way you can do updates, the way you can figure everything out on your dashboard has been good so far. So no complaints.
Yeah, for me too. I've noticed. I like Fund My Comic. I like Luke Stone. He's a good guy. But for Indiegogo and Fund My Comic, like, you have to bring your own audience. The nice thing about Kickstarter is there's people who will just be like, oh, new comic, I'll back it. It's got like its own sort of ecosystem of people who might run across it. Whereas like, nobody's going to Indiegogo for comics unless you tell them to go there. And they're not going to accidentally find it, by like, show me all the new comics, Indiegogo. Like, stuff just doesn't show up. But So, so in your world, you've got several different books. Is it sort of easy for you to pick what you want to do next, or do you ever have like competition in your own mind of like, oh, I should do this one next, I should do that one next?
Yeah, you always have competitions, but I think it's, like depending on the artist availability and different kind of
Yeah.
situations, everything kind of works out like it's supposed to. So, like I said, right now it's a good time for the anthology. Next, Bloodbone. After that, Raid of the White Leopard. So, it all kind of ended up working out in the end anyway. So, you know.
Yeah. And for anyone watching who's interested in checking this out, pinned in the chat on both YouTube and Rumble, there's links. And then also there's links in both descriptions. And there's links to Buzz's Twitter feed. So if you want to go follow him there, and if you're looking for older books, you can message him. So what books are you reading right now?
Mostly I'm reading a lot of old Image books.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got a stack of some over here. I've been on a back issue binge, so a little, Gen 13 right there.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got some Supreme, yeah, Wildcats. So yeah, I've been mostly on a back issue 90s binge. I didn't have a lot of access to Image books back where from my area. So like aside from like Youngblood, Spawn, a couple other ones, I never really got to see a lot of these kind of books. So it's been fun to kind of go back and check them out. The art's absolutely spectacular. Like these books look so good. It's kind of actually shocking. It's like just beautiful artwork all around. It's insane.
Yeah, Image went through a few like interesting phases. I remember the initial phase, there was so much excitement, but a lot of the stories were a little underwhelming. But then, after a couple of years, they really started to pick up a lot more. Do you have like, I know you like 90s books, but is there like a particular time in the 90s for Image that you really like, or just the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, my real love for comics was like the early, like 91 to like 94, 95. That's when I discovered all the books that I to this day are still my favorites. Discovering Will Sportasio's art in Uncanny X-Men is just a revelation. Just watching how he drew Bishop, Storm, Archangel, Iceman, just like it blew my mind. I never thought like comics could be that visceral. And then Todd's Spider-Man, just like MJ was like the most beautiful woman you've ever seen on a comic book page. And then like, I discovered I'm a fan of like the kind of C-list, D-list characters. So I'm a big fan of Darkhawk. I discovered his series in the 90s and just loved one of my all-time favorite books, Darkhawk. So yeah, that's my sweet spot. Anything from like 91 to like 95, just hook it in my veins. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Darkhawk. They had so many good like C and D list character. Like at that time, they were just trying, whatever to see what would work. I kind of like those because like the stakes were lower. Like with the X-Men, like okay, they always have to save the world from this and that, but like Darkhawk could be doing whatever.
Yeah, it was great. Like I thought, like it was so interesting, making this young kid, basically, having him grow up because of like these other already known heroes. Like, Spider-Man reads him the Riot Act in like one of the early issues, and kind of tells him like you can't just play like superhero. Like it's a serious business. You gotta like take it seriously, and that guides him through the rest when he meets other. He meets Punisher for the first time. You see like the lessons that he learned from his meeting of Spider-Man guides him to dealing with Punisher. And then he meets Captain America, and then he deals with Venom. And so it was always super interesting seeing this young kid with all this power kind of learning to grow up in this kind of already set up universe. Like I said, I cannot put that series over enough. I think the first 25 issues are fantastic. Kind of falls off after that, but it's still like really cool and interesting stuff. So yeah.
You
And,
know, it's
and Aces are very much inspired by Darkhawk. You know, anybody who's read it, I think, can see the influences. Everybody, you know, likes to talk about the helmet, like Mandalorian, and be like, yeah, I guess. But like, if you've seen Darkhawk and you compare the Ace to him,
yeah.
you see like what the real influence is. You know, like it's right there. So
It seemed like in the 90s, at least the big two, and you know, I guess everything at Image was new, but it seemed like they really knew how to create new characters and like build them into the universe. Um, but for some reason, Marvel and DC, like I can't really think, maybe Kamala Khan, but I can't think of too many new characters that have come out like in the last 10 to 15 years. What do you think happened? Where did it go wrong that they sort of forgot how to do this?
I think they got into the theme of replacement heroes. The reason these other heroes were cool wasn't because they were going to replace Spider-Man. It's
Yeah.
because they could interact and grow with Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man, remember, this is Todd and Eric Spider-Man. So, you know, he was hooked up with MJ. They're basically married, living an adult life. So Spider-Man was actually like a grown-up superhero, you know? So he had people that he influenced. The reason why he could talk down to Darkhawk when he's this young, kind of cocky kid is because he grew up idolizing Spider-Man. So his words weighed heavy. There's no like thought of replacing these guys. Like all
Yeah.
these other heroes were like a bonus. And I think I give credit to DC because at least they tried. Anybody remembers a couple of years ago they did the New Age of Heroes,
Oh yeah.
Silencer, Damage, Sideways. Those are actually really good books. I would suggest anybody go get them. Damage specifically is a big influence on Bloodbone. It kind of like inspired me to come up with this big kind of hulking guy. Like the story's very different, but it's definitely like an influence. I thought it was an underrated book. The Sideways I thought was a really good book. So you know, like they at least tried. You know, like they gave it a good effort, and I think, you know, I'd like to see both companies try and do that again. But know that these aren't replacement heroes; they're a bonus. They're new heroes for new people that you can introduce and play with the already established characters. But like I said, once you go into that replacement game, you create unnecessary chaos and you create infighting. You know, especially I'm a big Green Lantern fan, and people know like the fights we used to have on the old DC forums about Hal and Kyle. You know, DC created that. You know,
Yeah.
they have nobody to blame but themselves for those like years of just like fans being at each other's throats, because DC inspired that. You get what you want, you know. So
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see the thought like, you know, oh, get a little controversy, get a little passion. It's good for business. But too much, and then you just have your audience at each other's throats, and
yeah,
that's no
it was bad. Like they're literally just flame wars. You know, those forums used to just get lit up, thread after thread. Like nobody else cared. It was just Hal and Cal fans fighting at each other. So yeah, what they created.
So, you know, within the big two, I would say we should say mainstream comic market. Like, I don't really see a whole lot of excitement. Um, and if it is, it's maybe like, you know, like John Byrne, he's going to publish those 32 issues that his X-Men issues that he made, like, which is cool, but there's nothing like a Spider-Man or a Superman that's like getting beyond just a very niche audience into like the general public. Do you think maybe after a certain amount of time, some of these indie characters will be able to break through, or do you think it's always just going to be like a very focused kind of audience?
Yeah, it's always going to be hard for anybody that isn't Marvel and DC to break through. I mean, there's definitely possibilities. Kirkman has done it with Invincible,
Yeah.
but there's going to be few and far between. but it's okay. Like, like everybody has their own kind of avenues and places that they can take, their books and their characters. The idea should be to just tell really great stories,
Mhm.
and people they'll find you. You make those great stories, you make cool looking characters. There's a thirst out there for that. So you just create that and get it in people's hands, and then they'll start spreading the word of mouth, and next thing you know, you'll start growing a fan base. And I mean, look at what guys like Brian Pulido had done.
Yeah.
I remember Lady Death, like the fact that he can launch a Kickstarter tomorrow and get several 100,000 in backing, and just like, hey, I'm dropping a new Kickstarter tomorrow. Boop, you see, like the thing goes up. First week already like 100,000. You're like, that dude's, he built that himself. He hasn't had any big two clout. There's no real crossover, anything. You'll see some like YouTube trailers and stuff of Lady Death. That's about it. But he grew that, and it's a viable thing that he can put out literally at any point. He can drop a Kickstarter and drop several 100,000s because he has his fans that he's cultivated over the years. So to me, like, that should be the goal. Create that fan base, because there's a thirst out there for these characters.
Yeah.
And they're not getting them in the mainstream. So create your own lane with them.
Yeah, for sure. I think part of the biggest problem is connecting with fans. Like on this channel, I also talk with like people who are into tabletop gaming, and most of those guys, they loved comics when they grew up, and some of them are even like, oh, they still make comic books. But like, if you presented them with something that like was interesting, a lot of them be like, oh, that's cool, I got to check that out.
Yeah, and so you always see that, like, anytime you go to a convention, like, like you just see people like discovering stuff, and they'll stop by a booth. Somebody has an interesting character, a pinup or something, and you kind of go, "What is that?" I need to see more. People like discovering new stuff. They like, discovering these cool characters. I think you just gotta make sure that the quality is there. And this is kind of like what I've been working through, is trying to make these books as good as they can get, and try and make them as professional as possible and get them in people's hands. And as timely a matter, sometimes life gets in the way, but so I think people have a reasonable window where they can wait for the book, as long as they know that they'll get it. And so that's what I've been trying to do for the past 5 years. And this anthology is gonna be my 7th book. Want to get it in people's hands, so go check it out.
In some ways, it's really crazy to think that 7 books in 5 years. That's it.
That wasn't the plan, by the way.
Yeah,
that wasn't the plan. I was just happy with putting out one. And then, things just kind of snowballed from there. But hey, I'm not gonna complain.
So, like, are you? Is this like the rate? 7 books in 5 years is kind of like an average of 1 a year, or like every 10 months or something. Is that the rate that you'd like to be at, or would you like
my rate would be 2 a year? To like do one in the spring and then one maybe late summer. It's kind of like how I, in a perfect world, and then I can kind of like, interact with different books. But like the idea of having like one Ace, one Bloodbone, then maybe something else, and then I go back to another Ace, another Bloodbone, then something else, kind of like that. But there's a lot of variables about that, so I just kind of take it as it comes. You can't plan ahead too much, especially when you don't know what the economy is going to be like and all that.
Well, that's
so you
true.
got to just kind of, you got to be a little conservative in what you're shooting for.
So when you're writing books like Ace and Bloodbone, do you have like a series end in mind? Like, okay, I know maybe you don't know how many issues, or you don't know exactly when, but like, okay, I know I'm going to have this thing happen and a big battle here, and then that's it, finished? Or is it more like comics traditionally where it's like it's always going to continue, after this big thing, then we're just going to pick up with the next storyline?
It depends. Like Ace is meant to be an ongoing
Mhm.
So basically, I've had like the first kind of outline of the first kind of story arc. So it'd be like Ace 1 through 4 is the first story arc, and then kind of 5 starts a new story arc. So that's always been meant for as an ongoing. Something like Raider of the White Leopard is meant to be like a three part, basically a 3 book arc. A beginning, a middle, and an end. It's like a one little story. Something like Savior, I see kind of like one big story. So it'd be something like, I compare a lot to like is my take on something like Watchmen.
Mhm.
It's like this one kind of big story, and then we kind of can close that out. You could always revisit different things, but it's kind of like the one big. Then Bloodbone's kind of like also like another ongoing. Like initially I was just planning on doing like a mini series, just maybe like a 5 issue mini series. But I've had so much fun writing the character, and the art is so good. I'm like, nah, I want to keep going with Bloodbone. So yeah, each story is a little different.
I can see that. So when you're writing, are you always writing sort of for the same audience, or do you ever think of like, okay, these are more like teen oriented or adult oriented, or maybe now I want to try like a kid's book, or is it just sort of how or you get the idea first and then you write it out, as opposed to thinking, I want to write this kind of a story?
It's a mix of things. I mean, I try to do stuff that's different. So like, the idea with Ace is like you have aliens, you have outer space, you have, this guy in armor, so it's very kind of, like a more sci-fi kind of Green Lantern-ish, and then you have Bloodbone, which is completely street level. It's kind of like a Daredevil, kind of like I compare the character a lot to like he's like a good guy version of Bane. If Bane was,
Oh, okay.
fighting for the good. But it's super street level. Like there's no like real superpowers, just all a bunch of like enhanced humans. And then you have like, something like Raid of the White Leopard is just like its own kind of story, because I wanted to write about Vikings, but it's not like a traditional Viking story. I wanted to give it its own little twist. But yeah, so each story kind of it's its own kind of separate thing. I don't like, I don't think I'll do anything else that involves like aliens or space or anything like that, because I can get all my ideas right into Ace, and and so it's kind of like I like the idea of doing stuff that's completely different and kind of
Yeah.
you could be to like completely different audiences. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah. Sometimes you need like a little palate cleanse. Like, I'll try this genre now.
Yeah.
Is there something that you've been wanting to, like a different genre or a different storyline you've been wanting to do, but you haven't had a chance yet?
Yeah, I do have a couple stories that I would like to like put in the second anthology, but nothing like that. It's 100% locked in, but it would be different. Like all of these are different than any other ones that are in the anthology. So, like I said, there's always little something extra, like dealing with like kind of like magic and different kind of like more like spiritual kind of settings. Like that's always been something I've been interested in. So you kind of maybe do something with that.
Um, so you were talking about you wrote pretty much everything except for the
Yeah,
Blue
Blue
Beetle,
Blaze. Yeah.
or Blue Blaze, sorry, not Blue Beetle, Blue Blaze story. Can you see in the future asking other people to write some stories in your world, or
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah?
Yeah. So I definitely like to like to I know a lot of guys have asked about writing something for Akula. So definitely I'm open to lending him out, and to seeing what people come up with for stories. It just has to be kind of the right thing, and it has to be something that makes sense. But yeah, like I said, I like collaborating with people. It's like, and me and the Hardline guys are always pitching ideas and different stuff to each other. So that collab is something comes natural, and I enjoy it.
Very cool. Um, so is there anybody in the indie space that you'd like to collaborate with?
Oh yeah, there's tons of people, that I love to work with, you know, anybody from like, Kenneth Rocafort, Art to Bear,
Oh yeah.
there's tons of talented artists out there that I'd love to kind of mix with, and maybe write something for them, or they can, draw something for me, whatever we can kind of come up with. There's tons of people, like I'm a, me and the Hardline guys, like, we're always talking about doing future projects. So, might seeing some collabs from us. But yeah, there's a tons of talent in the indie space, like, so
Mhm.
yeah, definitely would like to collab with a bunch of people.
Hmm. So let's see back here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the campaign?
Yeah, so the Drawn Aces Comics Group Anthology is 5 short stories by 5 very talented artists that deals with telling stories about characters from the Drawn Aces Comics Group universe. So you have the Ace, you have Xavier, you have Ray of the White Leopard, Bloodbone, and Blue Blaze. Each story takes place in its own separate universe. So there's different settings. Like Ace, like I said, deal with space. Bloodbone's very street level. Ray of the White Leopard takes place on like a secluded island. Yeah, so each kind of a setting and then story is very different. It's got a bunch of very talented artists, and like I said, it just kind of brings together everything that I've been working on the past 5 years, plus kind of future projects that I hope to put out through crowdfunding. All in kind of one tidy little package here. And we do have actually a bonus 6 story that, we're not talking about, so don't worry about it. But yeah, that'll be fun when people get the book and check it out. So as I just, I want to have fun with this, and to introduce a bunch of cool characters. Really, really incredible art. Like I said, I love that cover by How. We're offering it in the colors and line art. And they're going to be virgin covers, so they won't have any logo or anything. So you can just enjoy the beautiful art there.
Oh,
First
nice.
time I'm doing virgin covers and line art covers. So doing a little something different for Kickstarter there.
Excellent. And is everything print, or do you have digital as well?
I know I do have digital also. This campaign is only US based. I wanted to do something, that was kind of more affordable. So this book is, if you back in the US, the book's 13 plus 5 shipping, so it's like $18 for like a 32-page comic. I thought probably about as low as we can get it right now. So yeah, so it is only for US, but yeah, you do have digital for any international that wants to back. You can get the PDFs, only $10. So
That's pretty good. Out of curiosity, I'm sure you know who Peter Samiti is.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. So have you considered, not necessarily through him, but trying a newsprint version of your books?
Yeah, I've looked into his campaign. I like what I'm seeing. Also, the Zaid boys are doing their own kind of in-house printing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of options. I definitely would like to get it in newsprint. Kind of take it back to the old days.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like you go through those long boxes and you could smell the 90s there.
It's great. It's super, like, especially the colors and everything is so vibrant. I hate like the when they like recolor those pages, because it looks wrong. It just does not look right. Like it literally instantly turns me off. Like, keep the original colors. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I have a newer like trade of I think Fall of the Mutants or something, and everything just looks so gaudy, like all the colors stabbing you in the eyes.
Yeah.
Then I go back and I look at the original books, and it's like, oh no, this is way more subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you also have art available on here?
Yeah, we're offering the first 4 pages of original art of Blue Blaze by Joe Ball. Yeah, this is a nice treat for everybody. Joe's, one of the most detailed artists there is.
Yeah.
He's slaving. He was slaving away on these pages, literally. So, yeah. So whoever likes original art, get to see Joe put his heart and soul into these. I think it's a really good price for them. And like I said, this is the first appearance of these characters and everything. So I think it'll be cool little collectible for anybody out there who likes original art. I actually own a couple pages of Joe's Super Harem. So those pages, like, and when you hold them right in your hands, like you'll be happy with them. So
very cool. And so how much is done, and when do you expect people to get books in their hands?
So we're expected, the ship date is February of next year. If we can get it out sooner, we can, but there is a buffer, especially with the holiday season. With my regular job, it's tough to the November, December. I'm strapped in at the job. So, January, February is good. First, what's done, there's 3 pages of art that need to be finished. Only 1 full page that needs to be finished. So the other 2 just need to be reworked. So pretty much all the hard work's done. It's just about kind of reworking 2 pages, and then 1 final page for Blue Blaze has to be done. But we'll get that done. There's probably like 6 that need to be lettered. About like 6 pages need to be lettered. My letter is super quick, so once we get everything set up, we can just send it over to him. Yeah, most of this, like I said, I printed out a preview ash can with most of the stories that were done, so everything looks good and ready to go.
Nice. Yeah. So for anyone who is watching and wants to check it out, why not head on over to the Kickstarter? Again, pinned in the chats on both YouTube and Rumble. And if you're watching this on X, why don't you go to YouTube or Rumble? You get more information about stuff there.
Yeah. Also, if you back, the next 2-3 days, you get the special Dan Plagle art.
Hello?
Week backers, so you have until Thursday night.
Sorry, you were roboting there.
Yeah, no problem. So, saying offering like a first week backers an exclusive art print from Dan Plagle. So it's in the updates section. The first one there.
Yeah, here we go. Okay.
Yeah, so
very cool.
Yep. So like I say, everybody who's already backed will get it, and anybody who backs until Thursday night will get that 2 colors by Marcos Martins. Of Alga, she's one of the Vikings from Raid of the White Leopard.
Very nice. So are you doing all the fulfillment yourself?
Yeah, I've gotten a hang for it. Doing the last 6 books, so it's not like too many, so we're a modest campaign, so I'm still able to do them. Once it gets past a certain amount, though, I'll be giving it to somebody else. I'm not gonna be doing 1,000 bucks. No, thank you. But for now we can handle it.
All right, very nice. So is there anything else people should know, either about this campaign or Bloodbone or Ace or anything else?
Yeah, only last thing I like to mention is I did announce a fan art contest for the Drawn Aces Anthology. We're doing a contest from yesterday, which was the 4th, until September 22nd. All you have to do is post on Twitter, submit, put the hashtag Drawn Aces art contest. Have a post with the rules and everything there. That's pretty simple. And yeah, so hopefully you get some cool submissions. The winner gets the back cover of the comic, and then he also gets comps of the book, and then he'll also get $125 via PayPal. So yeah, hopefully get some cool submissions, and like I said, see what people got. If you're an artist out there, show your wares, you know.
Definitely. And are people going to be able to, or how does the contest work? Is it you're going to choose, or are you going to put them up like on Twitter and let
Yeah, fan vote. Yeah, we'll let the people decide what they like. I did one for Ace Volume 2. You know, so we just had all the submissions, just put it to a fan vote, and then I think we had it for like a week and a half, something like that. So we'll probably do the same thing, just put all as many submissions, and you know, if we get like a ton, then we'll probably have to do like, you know, because we can only do 4 options for Twitter poll, so we might have to do some brackets. But yeah, we'll let the people decide, and you know, whatever they like, we'll get a winner.
Oh, that sounds awesome. All right. Well, for anyone watching, again, check it out on Kickstarter. Links in the description, pretty much wherever you're looking. And go follow Buzz on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. There's also links to his bio there. Well, thanks for coming, man. It was very cool to see. I'm interested to see how it ends up. I've always been a fan of anthologies myself. I kind of like you just get like a little view of the story. You don't have to have like knowledge of everything Peter Parker did in 1972.
Yeah.
This little bit that I can tell if it's cool or not.
Yeah, it's a good mix of stuff, especially like, you know, for anybody who's interested in like debut characters and first times, you know, you get these brand new stories that we're introducing, and you know, stuff that you'll hopefully see more in the future. So be interested, you know, get some surveys out to people and see which one was their favorite, you know.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thanks for coming, man. And for everyone watching, next week, Wednesday at, I think, 8 p.m., I have Chubby Funster. We're going to be talking about vampires in Shadow Dark. So until next week, see y'all later.